I want to get right into today's topic, right into the session today. I have a couple of guests to introduce as well. The focus for today is going to be bridging the gap between your product and customers. Now, all the time as product people, we have ideas. Our team has ideas for things that we can build, whether it's new products, new features, but how do we end up communicating that to our customers? And do our users, they even like that idea? Are they even interested? Would they even get value from that? That's what we're going to dig into today. And with us to dig into that, I have a very special guest. I have Lisa Mo Wagner. Lisa Mo Wagner is a product coach at CodeCentric, and soon I'll be turning things over to Lisa. But we also have Pierre Link. Pierre Link works on the customer success team, is the customer success manager at airfocus. And so we're going to get to learn from Pierre as well. And so really, with all of that, I want to turn things over to Lisa Mo Wagner and Pierre Link as we really get things started here. So I'm going to go dark here, but I will be in the chat if you need me. And Lisa, I'll turn things over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mike. Thanks for the intro. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited. There's a bunch of you here from all over the place. That is really, really cool. I'm going to quickly share my screen because I did bring a few slides with me for you. And we're going to be talking about bridging the gap between product and customers, as Mike has already pointed out. And let's get right into it. Talking to your users and or your customers is super, super important. And I hope none of you is just like super puzzled right now. But if you ask me why, it's really, really easy. If you don't know what you need to be building for someone so that they will love your product, if you want to do that, you really have to get to know them. And the one thing that I try to keep in mind is me and my team, we might be experts on the possibilities of technology, but my users are experts on their own lives or their business, depending on which space you're working in. So it's really important to gather helpful, meaningful feedback and not just build anything or build something that someone just yells at you. For those of you who are in the B2B space, sometimes you have really big customers and they might just kind of ask for something and you build it because they're such a big customer. Sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, let's talk about how to gather helpful feedback. Now, you've probably all heard this quote before, which Henry Ford never actually said, but the idea is still true. If I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. So I don't want you to just go out and ask people, well, what do you want? And then build that, right? That's not what we're here for and what we're trying to do. But it's important to understand what people really need, what are their pains, what are possible gains, and how can you actually understand them so you can build something that they will love. Now I have a question for all of you. Maybe you can just drop it in the chat and let me know what types of feedback you are already collecting today. Anything that comes to mind that you're looking into, that you're collecting from your users or your customers. Just put it all in the chat. I'm going to share with you the things that come to mind or came to mind for me. There are different types of feedback. These are just like some broad categories. User interviews, for example, there are a bunch of different ones, right? We get exploratory user interviews that I personally really enjoy because it's more of I usually have a very loose outline and it's more of a chat with a person to just really understand where they're at in their life, what they're doing. Of course, I have a goal on what I need and want to understand for my product, but overall, it's a very nice conversation most of the time. Sometimes there are more specific topics and I might have a more detailed outline because I want to really understand a very specific aspect of my user's life. Because at the end of the day, if I want to create positive outcomes, I need to understand what kind of behavior I want to be influencing. There are other cool things like jobs to be done. Those types of interviews can be super interesting to really understand like what brought someone to choose a certain product, or what are their pains and gains. And there are really cool templates out there for interview outlines and those kinds of things. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about all of these, but so just so that you've heard about them, right? Sometimes you also chat a little bit on the side while you do usability testing. I've had some great insights from that when people just start telling me stuff while we do a usability test, which is the next part here where you can actually gather feedback. This one's a lot more specific and usually connected to a specific idea that you've already been working on, because you have a prototype that you show someone, for example. Maybe it's just a click dummy. Maybe you have some sort of MVP or MLP, the minimum learnable product. That's something I also always like, where it's just like, what's the minimum I have to put out there so I can actually learn from it? And learning from it just means get feedback, right? You can even do usability tests with an existing product, which is really, really cool when you start in a new team. You start working on a new product that you haven't worked on before. If you have the chance to just do some think aloud user testing with the existing product, it can give you really great insights on the things that you might want to focus on first. There are also surveys. Those can be, I don't know, sent out via email. You can have them in the product, all kinds of things. And then, there's other departments that also interact with customers. They might also give you some feedback. So these are like kind of different, but they will all give you some sort of feedback. And some are more direct, some are a bit more indirect. But the next thing I want to look into with you is how to generate insights from that feedback. Because if you do all of these things, that's awesome. And then you have a pile of information and data, and you need to sift through that and need to kind of find your way around it. So I could probably talk for the whole webinar just about how to generate insights from feedback. So let me go off on a bit of a tangent, but I'll come back to the whole, bridging the gap, not just in one direction. But yeah, let's talk about the insights. So what I like to do is collect it all in one place. As soon as you start having, I don't know, like qualitative user research in one place and then your surveys in another and stuff, you might miss things. So you want to kind of collect it all in one place. One very important learning for me personally was that words matter a lot. And especially for feedback that I have been collecting from colleagues and other departments and stakeholders, a lot of the time, those things are called feature requests. So someone from another team comes over and they give you a feature request and they have a solution for you. And we all know we've usually been trained from like kindergarten times on, like, don't bring me problems, bring me solutions. And then there's this product manager saying the opposite and people get very confused and they don't like it that much. And they have certain expectations because they requested something and they think they're going to get something back. Well, if you call it a feedback library and not like a list of feature requests, that already kind of helps you to manage expectations a little better. And it helps other people to also understand that it's not just hand in a request and you get whatever you want to, but it's more like, oh, I hear you, I see you, I will understand or try to understand what you're saying. I might quantify what you've been saying, and then I might find a solution. It might not be the same one that you found. And transparency is super, super important in that whole setup. So yeah, call them feedback libraries. It helps with expectation management. And then what I do is I use labels and categories. So for each chunk of information that I have, I try to find either, I usually start with more specific labels, and then I kind of see, oh, can I put like several labels into maybe one category? And this very much depends on the industry or in the product that you're working on. So I can't really give you any examples that are going to be helpful for you specifically. But you just like play around with it a little bit so that you have the labels for more detail and then categories above that. And that will then actually help you to find patterns. And that's kind of the part where the insights come in. You find the big patterns in that. And those are the things where you can really find valuable opportunities, and then finding the bits and pieces that really matter. Especially if you see, oh, okay, if I look at this label, I can actually connect a bunch of things I have learned in my exploratory interviews to something that we've asked in a survey, to something that I've been hearing from sales for a while now, and it all comes together and starts to make sense. You know, it might be a little bit like, do you know that guy in that meme that has the board behind him with all the strings and the pictures who looks a bit crazy? That's kind of what product managers look like when they find the insights in their pile of feedback. So yeah, that's just super helpful. Also be as transparent as you can throughout the whole process. I like to share back to the other departments that have given me information, because they are usually the ones that will ask straight away. If you gather feedback from users or customers, sometimes they don't even know, because it might be something where you just track how they move through your application. So that's a bit different, but especially working with other departments, you get a lot of, so did you build the thing I asked for? So be a bit proactive about it, and that will make things a lot easier for you as well. All right. I have another question for all of you, because I talked a bit about working with other departments or, you know, colleagues, other parts of the company that you work with, collaborate with, and who will give you feedback. So I'm curious to hear, which other departments do you actually work with? Who's giving you feedback? Who's giving you maybe feature requests or just information from customers? Like, what other departments are there? Just, you know, put it all in the chat. I think it's on one of the sides. You know what I mean? So I have been working with customer success teams, account managers, sales teams, project management teams. When I was working on a white labeling solution, so they have project managers to kind of onboard new customers. And working with all of these teams, there are some amazing opportunities in there, you know, because you will get specific feedback and insights that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise, because the situation is very different. If a salesperson or a customer success manager or someone from an account management team interacts with a customer, those interactions are very different than a user interview is. So you'll get a unique perspective. Now, there's also a bit of a downside, and maybe a word of advice. Other departments often have slightly different goals than you do. So, I mean, sure, everything we're all doing pays into some overarching company goals, and those are the same for everyone. But how each team contributes can be a little different. So let's say, you know, sales might not be interested in retention, but you are. Just some random example. Not saying this is always the case, but it's one possibility, right? So take things that you get from other departments with a grain of salt, but also appreciate them. And I'm fully aware this sounds a bit paradox and maybe a little mad, but, you know, that's product management for you. It always depends. So in the middle of all of this madness, let's talk about how you can make this better for everyone involved, basically. Because especially other departments, they are not product managers. They don't know how we work day to day. For them, it's most likely a black box, and they have no clue what's happening, and they're just waiting. And they think we don't understand what they need. And I don't know about you, but I've had lots and lots of situations in my product management career where people were just like, yeah, but like, we just need this one little feature. It can't be that hard. Well, you know, sometimes it is that hard because there's tech debt, maybe there's other priorities. There's so many things why maybe you can't do this right now in this moment, or maybe you never want to do it because it doesn't actually really fit in with the product vision. All of those are possibilities. So as I've said before, you want to be very transparent, and you also kind of want to teach and educate the other people that you work with on how you actually work. That will lead to them being able to contribute in a meaningful way. And that's really all that everyone wants. Nobody wants to be bad at their job or like run into issues or, kind of fight with other people in the company. We all kind of have the same goals at the end of the day. We want to make this company better. We want that people love our product and that they buy it. So transparent communication and creating opportunities for collaboration and alignment are some of the main responsibilities of product managers. So you don't only collaborate and align with the team that you work with, also those guys, that's really, really important as well. Make sure you don't forget them. But you also want to do that with other people in your company. And then you can even go one step further and do that with customers and users. So overall, what I'm trying to say here is information should be a two-way street, and it's your job to create an information balance. Now, this information balance thing is something that I feel I've only learned rather late in my career. And I had a lot of moments where I got pretty frustrated with people because I thought, well, it's so obvious. How do you not understand this right now? But even in small ways, even with my team, one example that comes to mind is that I had a new team member, a developer, and when he first started, we sat down, we went through the roadmap so that he had an idea of like, what were the big next steps? Where are we going? What's happening? What's up? And I think 2 weeks later, we had a retro and he said, yeah, he doesn't even know what we're doing. And he's like, never even seen the roadmap. And he would actually really love to understand what's going to happen next. And I sat there and I thought, I just told you, like, I remember telling you what? Yeah, but I work with the roadmap all the time. That's like one of the core parts of my job as a product person, but the devs on my team don't. And the salespeople usually don't either. And the customer success people don't either. So, make it easy for them to see and understand and know about what you're up to. And that way you can also get a lot more feedback and insights. Because if you share with them what you're up to, they can share back if that makes sense to them and if they think it's a good idea. You don't always have to agree. That's fine. Sometimes you think it's a great idea, they don't, and it might be a great idea at the end, which is awesome. Good on you. But it's also fun when you start collaborating with those people, not fighting against them. And it's cool for them if you, for example, share a clickable prototype and then show it off to your colleagues. And you're like, well, this is like an amazing idea we had and we made this and it looks super real. It's like a cool thing. It's kind of fun to brag a little bit, like you're allowed to do that. So there's lots of stuff that you can share with lots of different people, like your stakeholders, the general rest of the company, even though they might not be like specific stakeholders. But we all work for the same company, so everyone's interested in what's happening. Your users, your customers. I found that last bit especially useful in a B2B or like a SaaS product space. So I'm gonna ask you again in the chat, what kind of information do you share and who are you sharing with? So what are things that you're actually sharing back to the rest of the company's users, stakeholders, whoever it is? Let me know. I'm very curious to hear who you're sharing with. I'm going to share with you then who I share with. Well, that's a lot of sharing there, but we also know sharing is caring, so that's fine. That works. Let me know in the chat. All right, so here are a few things that I like to share. Release notes. Super simple, something that a lot of us probably have. And it doesn't even matter if it's internal or external. It's a cool thing that you can share and you can even make them fun. My very first product job, one of the first like bigger tasks I got was, can you write the release notes? And I was like, yeah, sure. How do I do that? And my head of product at the time, he told me, it's like, you know what? Look up the ones that Slack sends out because they're really actually kind of funny. And I was like, oh, okay. So I read a bunch of Slag's release notes, and I was like, those are actually fun to read, because I had never thought about release notes being fun. And then I found out Medium also had really great and fun release notes. And I took that as inspiration, and it did not take long, but people actually started looking forward to the internal announcements of release notes of the things that we were doing. And they were even interested in the stuff that, I don't know, I've met a lot of product people who are just like, yeah, nobody cares about the stuff that's under the hood. Like, we don't need to talk about the technical things. But most of the time you do the technical things because they do something like better performance, more stability. And so I would share those, and people would be happy. And my personal thing is, whenever I write stuff, I put a lot of emojis in it to just kind of illustrate my points. I like doing that. And then people started reacting with a whole bunch of emojis. So there's always basically a dance party going on under my release notes. And that was fun for all of us. And people knew what was new in the product. So win, win, win all around. So that's something you can do. Sharing new features, which release notes kind of do, but sometimes that might not be the right format. I worked at a place where I would always have like 3 minutes in the company town hall meeting where I would just go up and be like, yo, very quickly, top 3 new features or new things that we've just released last week. And people would just, like, I would know which things would excite the people the most. So obviously I would pick those as the top 3, and people would cheer, and it would be fun for me, but it was so wonderful for the engineering team, because up until that point, they were kind of like not really seen, and they felt super appreciated because people were excited about the stuff that they were building and they could see it and hear it. So that's a great thing that you can do. Roadmaps, upcoming features, work in progress. There's so much information in there. You do want to make sure that your roadmap is maybe not just a list of features. Maybe you also add in a few like problems that you want to be looking into, things you want to discover more about. Depending on who you share with, you kind of want to find the right flight level for your roadmap when you share it. For work in progress and upcoming features, especially upcoming ones, only share the ones that you're actually working on. Because if you put too many upcoming features in there and some of them are not actually, like, you don't even know 100% yet that you will be working on those, people will have the expectation that you will be working on it. And if you then decide you're not doing it, it might not be good to put it like very specifically into upcoming features. Also, when you share these things, remember who your audience is, because some things might be very interesting for your users while others might not. So make sure you kind of point out the stuff that's really interesting for your users, and then they're excited about learning more about it. As I said, in your roadmap as well, generally ideas, opportunities, problems you're exploring, all of those things are things that you can share, because that will give you insights like way earlier than anything else could. And maybe you're like going down a wrong path, or maybe not. Or here's another story. You might even find like an interested customer or someone else, or a subject matter expert that you can co-create with for one of the problems. That's something that happened to me. I was doing some user interviews, and at the end of the interviews, I would people would ask, so like, what's this for exactly? And so I would tell them a bit of the general idea, what we're going for. And it was a fintech product, cash flow management for small businesses. And I had talked to a small business owner, and he said, oh, that's really cool. See, I'm not really good with these kinds of things. So I got a financial advisor who specialized in small businesses, and he's explained a bunch of things to us, and he gave us this really cool like Excel sheet to work with. And I feel like that would be super helpful for your product, because that is something that your product might be like able to do. And so he connected me to this person, and then we actually had a workshop together, and I got so much great advice from this financial advisor. I mean, it's his job, I guess. And he really helped me make my product better. And we talked about how it also fits together, that this product wasn't taking his job away. He said, the simple things that you can automate, like you can do those with that product, and that's amazing. But then for like the super very specific individual things, you still need me as a financial advisor, but I wouldn't be wasting my time on all the small things that businesses can do beforehand. So it was great. It was a great moment of co-creation, and it really helped the product. So that's something that could happen. You can also share designs, wireframes and mockups, prototypes and experiments. So those are already a bit more specific, and also early access, like have an alpha version, a beta version, those kinds of things, where you might not feel ready to put something out into the general public, but you will have some people using it and actually giving you feedback on how they're using it, because that, again, is different from whatever you can get from a prototype user test. So there's tons and tons of things that you can actually share. And once you share them, you'll get to collect even more feedback from all of those. And I mean, that's just really, really cool and amazing. And also, most of these things do not need a lot of development time. So, when we think ship fast, fail fast, that's good. But you know what's even better? You don't even need to ship. You get to fail fast before you even ship, or find out that something's really spot on and perfect. So isn't that like what we all want? It is what I want, and it's something that I can definitely recommend to you. So yeah, these are the things that you can share to kind of bridge the gap. And I'm gonna hand over to Per now, because he can actually show you like in practice how you can share.
Thanks, Lisa. Hello, everyone. Also from my side, really happy to be here as well. My name is Per. I work in the customer success team at airfocus since a few years, and the idea is that I would like to show you some practical approach, also some tools that you can use on how to do all the things that Lisa just talked about. I have one more slide, but it's pretty much just a list of the things I want to cover. So I work at airfocus, as I just said, and we have a solution to publish roadmaps, gather feedback, create insights out of that, and also then close the feedback loop in the end and communicate that to the customers who gave you feedback in the beginning. So what I would like to do is just share my screen. And I can quickly show you how we do it at airfocus. Maybe some context, just a few seconds. We started out as a prioritization tool for product managers to help them make better product decisions. Throughout the last years, we've developed the whole thing into we say full cycle product management platform, where you can not only share your roadmap and prioritize your initiatives, epics, whatever it might be, but actually also get customers involved. And we build specific features for the feedback management part as well that I will show you right now. This is airfocus. This is so-called airfocus workspace. As you can see, I use this workspace here. You can pretty much customize the whole thing, but you'll get the idea. Here, for example, I have a list of opportunities that I'm working on for my Voom video platform. So you can see I have many different workspaces. For example, for the mobile app version, I have a feedback workspace, just as Lisa just said, collect everything in one place. This would be my feedback workspace here in airfocus. I have public roadmaps, etc., etc. I will show you a bit of that in detail. So maybe first of all, as I said, this is where I would have an opportunity. So you can add new opportunities here. Here we go, assign people and do whatever with it. Have custom fields, right? Add a description here, set up custom fields. What initiatives does this belong to? People can comment on it, etc. And we just launched a few months ago, we just launched a public portal. I would start here with the loop. So you have the stuff you're working on. in your workspace. You might want to get feedback on it to help you with the prioritization. So what you can do is you can select a status, for example. So let's say this is in design for right now. And then you can publish this thing to your public portal that we have. So where does this belong to? Also based on another custom field that you might have. And then you can upload, first of all, a thumbnail. I think that's what it's called. And you can add a title, customer-facing title, and a description of what you're working on right now, right? You can then post this new opportunity on your portal. An airfocus portal looks like that. You can customize it again, customize the whole thing, do your own branding, and you can see this is how it's visualized. You can have many different pages. One of them could be your website, another way of visualizing your roadmap, and here we go. So here is our new opportunity, for example, in the apps and integration settings. Cool thing about that is airfocus gives you the chance not to only visualize the whole thing, but also collect feedback on it. This is why we're here today. So to talk about that. So as you can see, we have a submit an idea button up here, but people can also give you feedback on each individual item here. So they can do that with a form that you can customize. So you could say, I really like this one, and add your email. How important is that to me, for example? And this is really important. So just to give you an idea, who do I share it with right now? So obviously this portal can be shared internally to just receive internal feedback from other departments, C-level, whoever you want to collect feedback from. But of course, this could be also shared publicly, right? As I said, I have one workspace in airfocus where I collect all of this feedback. It's just another workspace that you can customize. It has one of these inbox views here, and you can see my new feedback shows up in here. So cool thing about that is I can now review it. It can have different statuses for whenever it came in, and this is also the place where I, as a customer success manager, would add feedback from, let's say, onboarding calls, support calls, everything that I receive via email, intercom. This thing is, for example, connected to my intercom chat. So I can quickly push things over from over there, from my support chat right into airfocus as a new feedback. And the PMs can work on it and assign those things or assign those feedback items to the stuff that they are currently working on. So how can they do that? They can create insights out of these feedback items. They can highlight the important or interesting context that they have, and then they can assign it again to another item that lives in one of your workspaces. So let's quickly jump over there. As you can see, now I have a new insight for the animated video background, for example. Cool thing about that is when I now take a look at one of my opportunities here, it will show me all the insights that I have on this item, right? So it's the one place. So obviously that helps me a lot when I'm building things. Even cooler, we have a prioritization framework in airfocus that you can customize. And we have the option to also add this insights counter right here on the value side of my prioritization framework. So I can say the more insights I have on something, the easier it is to build, right? So it should be on my value side. So it has a higher score. It's easier to build. So here I have opportunities. I might also have another one where I have my initiatives, for example, right? All of those can be managed in airfocus, and you can publish them and gather feedback for them. In my feedback workspace, I could now create views that help me in the end as a CS manager to communicate what we've built, what is finished. So based on the status that we have, I could say, all right, I'm assigned to specific ones of these items as a CS manager. So I could say, okay, based on what the people filled out when in the form, when they submitted this feedback, I would have their email address, for example, or their name, and I could reach out to them specifically when we launched something, when we've built something, finished a project, reached a goal, whatever it might be, to communicate that internally or externally. So for me, it's really easy in airfocus to build a view based on a filter, for example, where it says everything that is assigned to me as a CSM and has a status closed, for example, will show up here. So I can come in here on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and check, okay, have we actually launched something in the last days? And is this something that has been requested before or that I added, right? Or that one of my customers added. So it makes it easy for me to reach out to the right people. Yes. So this is the one way of doing it. We also have many different other views in airfocus. For example, a timeline that could look like that, right? And that you could share with your colleagues or externally as well. So how that would work is that you create a share link and send it out, embed it somewhere. Oh, give me a second. Embed it somewhere, or send it to specific people that you want to share it with. Here, the same thing. So that you would have the option to add this form, so they can either submit new ideas when they see this, or they can also submit feedback on specific items that you have on your roadmap. So that makes it very easy to visualize your roadmap in different ways, either with a share link that is real-time updated and this read-only version of what you're working on right now, or also on a public portal that you can share internally or externally. Whoever has access to this link can then give you feedback on the stuff you're working on right now. So quick recap, because sometimes it can seem a bit complex. So how it would work, for example, in airfocus is that you have one or multiple workspaces that you're actively working on as a product manager on a daily basis. You prioritize your epics, features, tasks, initiatives, whatever it might be in there with a framework that fits your requirements. You can track the status of those things right on a board. You can build a timeline based on that. You can have a priority chart showing which ones are most important. Then you can publish those either with a share link or on a public portal. Both of these options have a form attached where people can give you feedback. And these feedback items will end up in your feedback workspace, dedicated feedback workspace. This is important. We always recommend to separate those things. In general, it would be possible to set it up that the feedback directly ends up in your working workspace or in your management workspace, let's say. But we always recommend to separate between feedback items and work items to not be confused in the end. And then you can build insights out of these feedback items and again, attach them to the things that you're currently working on in the other workspace. And that feeds again into your public roadmap. So this is the loop. And I can quickly tell you, we launched most of these features within the past 18 months, I would say. And it makes it really easy also for me. So because I can be sure as a CS manager that PM, I mean, I'll also take a look here from time to time, right? And I can track progress of the things that I handed in. I have visibility on what the PMs are discussing. They can include me into the discussion here. So this is really helpful on a daily basis. So this is what I'm doing every day, and it's just great from time to time to go in here and see we reached a few goals, we made a few improvements, and I just have a list of people that I can reach out to and make them happy, let's say. Yeah. Okay, to keep it short, please feel free. Any questions? I guess that's it from my side.
Awesome. Thank you, Pierre. And I just wanted to come back on to facilitate questions here. I mean, I know many of you have already done so, but if you have questions for Pierre or Lisa based on what we just heard, submit it right in the Q&A section. There's a Q&A section at the bottom. It's a few icons over from the chat. You could submit it right there. But yeah, Pierre and Lisa, if it's okay with you, I'd love to spend the next maybe 15 minutes or so, 10, 15 minutes going over audience questions. We could get to as many as we can, if that's all right.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's see here. So I see some of, so this is one that came up in the chat, but also in the Q&A section. And Lisa, goes back to when you were talking in the very beginning about interviews. The question was, what are some of your go-to questions for user interviews? And obviously this might vary from product to product. It depends on the market. But are there any that you like to maybe as like a starting place, or even I guess maybe as a framework, how you like to start those conversations? What might be helpful?
Yeah. So when I do like less structured, like a semi-structured outline, I like to draw mind maps. So what I do is I usually have a set of intro questions. And those are always very similar. I've worked mostly in the B2B space. So it's often just like, hi, can you just quickly introduce yourself? Beforehand, I will explain all the things about the interview that I recorded so that I don't have to take notes and can fully listen and all those things. And I just ask the person to introduce themselves. Some go straight into also talking about their business. Then you can ask them about their business if they don't. So you want to start out with a bunch of questions that are very easy to answer for this person, because for them, they feel like this is like an interview where they're being kind of tested, because most people have never been in a user interview kind of situation, and it feels a bit weird. So if you ask them questions that they can definitely answer, they start to relax. And then I basically have my main research question, which I want answered within the whole of my interview. That always depends on like what I'm actually working on in that moment. And this question I don't ask. It's just the one that I want overall answered at the end of the interview. And then I kind of make subcategories of that question. And then I just come up with a bunch of like single questions for that. So it really always depends. Like there's not one specific question, but this is my go-to framework for semi-structured interviews.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, one, having that constant reminder that, hey, this is what we're here for. This is the question we're trying to answer. So at least it keeps you grounded in the conversation. And it's also a good reminder, what you mentioned in the beginning, asking some questions, not even about product. Like it might be a mistake to just jump right into product, but getting them warmed up a little bit, getting to know them a little bit is important. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Pierre, this can be for you or for both of you, really. Maybe you both can weigh in on this one. What are various ways to share recent releases with customers to increase awareness, apart from just, release notes, public roadmap, those types of things? Is there anything else that might be more helpful for customers, might help you yeah, might help share things in a different way.
Do you want to go first,
Start.
Per?
Go for it.
Okay, we'll start with Lisa.
All right then. So I think sometimes something like a newsletter can be cool if you have like a regular newsletter and you have a section where you're just like, hey, also maybe if you haven't seen it, like these are like the 3 coolest things to just, and then kind of link them to the rest of the release notes if they want to know more. Again, if you're in a B2B space, you might even just want to go to your customer success team and be like, hey, those are the new things that we have. Call the customers that you think will love it. So you can like work with them to make sure that the people that should really find these features actually find them. There's like a bunch of different ways to make it a bit more personal, maybe even. If you work on a gigantic B2C product, it might be different. And I personally, it really, really depends how it's done. In some instances, I like the little, oh, you have a notification and whatever app you're using is telling you what's new. Some of them are done really well and quick, and you can very quickly see, is this relevant for me or not? And then others don't do it so well. And then I'm just like, I'm not going to ever look at this again ever. So depends.
No, that's great. And yeah, a good reminder that, hey, if you're a small scrappy startup and you have business customers, maybe phone calls, right? But obviously, if it's your consumer app, you have millions of users. You have to think of it in a different way. Pierre, did you have anything more to add on that one? I thought that was a great answer from Lisa.
Right. I mean, what I do, obviously, at CS, I'm aware of the big ones, at least, that I'm taking care of a lot. What they want, or what they need, or what problems they want us to solve. What I can do, luckily, is I can create views based on that, and I can also share a roadmap, for example, with the stuff that they specifically requested, right? So they can be sure that it's always up to date and it's only showing the stuff that is relevant for them. So that helps me a lot I don't manually need to maintain that. I just create the view, and this is also they love it, obviously, because they will have a roadmap from us that only shows the stuff that's interesting for them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. Let's see. Yeah, we have time for a good couple more questions here. This can be a tricky one sometimes. The question is, what stage of the development process of a product is it appropriate to share features with customers? So this is maybe opening up the roadmap a little bit. This is getting a little more detailed. We're talking about features. I mean, and this features might be different than, we're sharing the general problem we're solving for. This question is asked about features. What do you all think about this one? Let's see.
You want to go first this time? Per doesn't ever want to go first. Okay.
No, that's okay.
All right. So I understand the general worry of like, oh, my competitors are going to see it and then they're just going to build the same thing. But by the time you have a fully fledged feature, you hopefully have done a bunch of research, tested a bunch of ideas, and you like know what you're doing. You might have done a prototype test, you might have done a proof of concept, a technical one, a spike, whatever. You're already ahead. No one can take it and build it faster in a better way than you can, usually. I mean, there might be an exception out there somewhere, but in 99% of cases, no one's going to steal it and make it better, faster than you can. So that's the one thing. So I'm not really worried about those things and like the kind of showing too much. The only time where I would be careful is if you're not 100% certain that you're actually going to build it the way that you say you will, because then you actually created expectations that you might not meet, and then you actually just kind of shut yourself in the foot, I guess. But if it's because of, being a bit paranoid about competitors, you're way ahead once it's on your roadmap and all like fully fledged. So don't worry about it.
Here, what are your thoughts on this one? Do you have more to add there?
For me, because I talk all day with people, obviously the one thing that, so the problematic thing is we moved away from everything that is time-based. That might be important. So what I hear all day is ETAs, obviously. And our product managers hate us already because of this. So this is the only important thing that I would mention here, is that we keep it as exact as needed, but also when it comes to the status and also the development, like progress, but we try to put it out as early as possible, obviously, as Lisa said, because every decision and product that we make is based on, I mean, for example, feedback, and it's a conscious decision. So at that point, we put it out there because we can get more context for it, more feedback again, and better understanding what people need. And it can actually, we experienced that in the past, actually change a few things, like really quick, just before we launch something, and we make some late changes based on that. So yeah, we'll try to put it out there as soon as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. No, and you both touched up on this. Pierre, you mentioned you don't necessarily often share dates. And to Lisa's point, we want to be sure that we are actually going to produce a certain feature or product, right? Because unless somebody might, we say it's coming, they might take that as a promise. So be sure that we're talking about, at least at the time where we know this is something we're going down. Sometimes with our roadmaps, not everything's a promise. It shouldn't be, right? Like new information comes out and we need to make changes possibly based on that new information. So no, I think this is helpful, sending us down the right path here. Looking at the clock, I think we have time for one more question here. And if there's questions that we don't get to, I'm going to be sharing information. Again, I'll share the recording along with some other information today or tomorrow. And you could keep the conversation going. I'm sure that the folks at Airfocus would love to hear from you and love to continue the conversation there. So, but I'm gonna end with this one. Let's see. This is a good one. I've been in these shoes before, both on the sales side and the product side. It says our sales team has the most face time with existing customers, and we'd like to empower them to conduct user interviews or get ideas and feedback from customers, but some might have a hard time because they're focused on selling, right? That's what they're motivated to do. What resources or suggestions might you have to help educate or guide a sales team to solicit constructive product and or problem feedback? So our sales team is the one that is often in front of customers. Maybe most of the time they're trying to sell, but they are trying to sell. So how do we sort of mitigate that? Lisa, maybe I'll start with you again, and then we could finish up here.
So I think one thing that's super important is that they understand how product works. Because a lot of the time it's kind of like, oh, it's product versus sales, and that's not helpful here. I have taken people with me into user interviews just to sit beside me and see how I do them, especially like the less structured ones or think aloud ones where you really don't say much, you just really listen. Which I don't want to sound mean, but it might be a new experience for some salespeople. Which also the best ones actually do listen really well. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still selling, but more in the long run, because at the end of the day, if we get the feedback and we build what people really actually need and want and will love, they're going to sell much more. And I mean, that's, if they are still selling, it's just an extra step on the way, maybe. But yeah. And also have some empathy, because everyone's just doing the best that they can. And I know that I've gotten annoyed with sales people in the past. And so have some extra empathy and some patience.
I like that. And I like offering to have them come along to a user interview, maybe even offer to go to a sales call with them. And you could say, look, I'll just be a fly on the wall. But then that way it feels like kind of a two-way street there. You could observe what's happening in their meetings as well. I love that. Pierre, any sort of last piece of advice on this one too?
I mean, we meet as often as we can, also like scheduled like even once, twice a week with product, CS, and sales, right? And we just make sure that product, they're not only sharing updates with us and like plans, but they're also sharing with us how they're working. And also, for example, since we also work in the same tools, kind of, for example, with the feedback, we are aware what the cycle looks like, what the steps look like. So that helps a lot, because it's not like, okay, I hand something in and then how long do I have to wait, right? People actually get an understanding of what it takes to release something, or to build something, or to solve something. So yeah, we just meet a lot and talk. I mean, that seems obvious, but I mean, we just meet a lot and talk about those things. Also, the product management, they really try to explain their procedures, right, and processes. And internally, that takes a lot of pressure of, okay, too slow, I need this ETAs,
Yes.
yeah, you know what I mean.
I like it. No, and then that communication internally is so important too. So I think that's a great piece of advice. Well, I know we're coming up right at the end of our time here. So this has hopefully been a helpful session for everybody. Again, I'm going to send the recording to everybody later today or tomorrow. So you could revert back to this at any point in time. And if there were questions we didn't get to, again, I know the team at airfocus would love to hear from you. But I appreciate all of you being a part of this. I appreciate you spending time with us today. And Pierre and Lisa, thank you so much for leading us through this today as well.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yes,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Absolutely. Well, with all of that, I hope you all have a great rest of the day. Thank you so much. Bye now.